The Minnesota Timberwolves have made it to back-to-back Western Conference Finals and only won one game in both series. And this is the year I think they can finally get over the hump. This team is absolutely stacked with Anthony Edwards heading into his age 24 season with something to prove. He's turned into one of the best three-level scorers in the league. But if one of Jaden McDaniels, Nas Reed, Terrence Shannon Jr., or Rob Dillingham, any of these four, if they take a step forward or a massive leap forward, then look out for this Wolves squad. And I think more than one of them can take that leap forward. The bottom line, however, is that Anthony Edwards needs to finally get over the hump. And now this is not an easy thing because the West is as loaded as it's ever been, but he's heading into his age 24 season, coming off of back-to-back Western Conference Finals runs, and has only won a singular game in both of those series. Had a really big year last year on 45% shooting from the field and 40% from three on 10 attempts. Those are Steph Curry numbers right there. He led the NBA in three-pointers made, kind of shifting his game from being a big-time slasher to now a big-time three-point shooter, but that's made him even more unstoppable. Wouldn't be crazy to see him jump up to 30 a game before long, and he's about to enter the prime of his career here in a couple years, and the Wolves have done a fantastic job surrounding him with lots of talent. And I think Jaden McDaniels, who we spoke about in the last video, who has flashes like against Portland when he dropped 30 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal, and 12-17 shooting from the field, just needs to be a little bit more consistent. The potential is definitely there for a guy like Jaden to take a step forward on the offensive side of the ball, because everybody knows defensively he's an absolute monster, but offensively, if he can be that third scorer for this Wolves team, he can make them even more deadly. Like in Game 3 versus the Lakers, where he dropped 30-5 in the playoffs to give the Wolves a huge Game 3 dub in a series that was tied 1-1. However, if you look at the game-by-game of this series, the efficiency was just not there whatsoever. Last year, the Wolves were 6-0 when Jaden McDaniels scored 25-plus points, including 1-0 in the playoffs, and at 6'10" with that 7-foot wingspan, we've already touched on how great of a defender he is. He's just got to get better and more consistent offensively. They also bring in Johnny Juzang, which is kind of an underrated but kind of unimpactful signing. 6'6" with a 6'11" wingspan, so he's got good length. Just another wing that they bring in that can give them depth. He's still relatively young as well, and just came off a year averaging 9 points and 3 rebounds in 20 minutes a game for a Jazz team that wasn't really competitive, but he did shoot 43% from the field and 38% from three on 5 attempts, which is a really nice sign and a really nice showing for a guy that is really just supposed to be a depth piece. Shot 46% from the field and 42% from three on 4 attempts a game for the 23-year-old, so he can definitely be a nice addition to this roster. Everybody also knows that the Wolves went out and got Johan Berenjay in the draft this year, but they still have Rudy Gobert, who is the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year and will be 33 years old next season, and he's going nowhere. Don't get it twisted. He's here for at least 2 more years because he's got that massive contract that really nobody wants to buy into, but he is an anchor for a team that has been top 5 in defensive rating for back-to-back seasons. Same thing in opponents' points per game, top 5. He's averaged 12-12 with 2 blocks in 33 minutes a game the last 2 seasons. Shot 67% from the field and from the free throw line as well. Just overall being a really, really good anchor for this defense, and he and Mike Conley are 2 fantastic veterans for the squad. So no, Johan Berenjay getting drafted means nothing for the status of Rudy Gobert. For at least the next 2 seasons, he can develop into a backup big. Now, losing Nickeil Alexander-Walker did kind of stink. 4 years, $62 million. Kind of was the heart and soul of this bench unit for the Wolves. 9.4 points, 3.2 rebounds, 2.7 assists in 25 minutes on 44% shooting from the field, 38% from three. And you might say, Luke, that's not really a huge impactful player right there. But, I mean, he's a guy that can step it up on any given night. He averaged almost 13 a game with close to 3 boards and 3 assists on 41% shooting from beyond the arc in the Western Conference Finals, the biggest stage. And at 6'5" with a 6'9" wingspan, he can go out and guard pretty much anybody on the perimeter, as well as, holding his own down in the paint. And the loss definitely hurts, like I said, but they have guys like Terrence Shannon Jr. and Jalen Clark to help ease some of that suffering. And like I said, man, Terrence Shannon Jr., one of my favorite players in the league. Coming out of Illinois, I was a huge fan. He falls all the way to 27. The Wolves pick him up, and what does he do? In his rookie season in Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals, drops 15-2-1 in 12 minutes. Coming in cold, didn't play in that series before that game, and just comes in and helps completely change the course of this series. Through games 3, 4, and 5, he averaged almost 12 a game with close to 2 rebounds in 12 minutes per. Ridiculous numbers, especially on fantastic efficiency for a rookie. And remember, in the games they played, Minnesota outscored Oklahoma City. The games that Shannon was on the court, they outscored. They were positive in the net against OKC in the Western Conference Finals. That's kind of crazy. In the regular season, though, he played 32 games, averaged about 4.3 points and 1.5 rebounds in 10.6 minutes a game, shot 48% from the field and 36% from 3 on 1 attempt a night. And I've just always been a fan because of his athleticism, but now he comes into a much bigger role next year and has a potential to go for maybe like a 6th man of the year type of award. Chris Finch doesn't really like to play rookies and young guys that much, so Dillingham, Shannon, and Jalen Clark weren't allowed to fully shine last year, but this year I think is going to be a much different story. Rob Dillingham's going to come in at 6'3", 167, really more like 6'1", 6'2", maybe 170, I'd feel like, but remember they gave up 2 first-round picks, 1 unprotected, and then 1 pick swap for the 8th overall pick, which they took Rob Dillingham. He only played 10.5 minutes a game last year, did shoot 44% from the field, 34% from 3. There have been worse from rookie guards, so obviously they're going to try to get a return on their investment here. Expect Rob Dillingham to get a lot of PT and really push for that starting point guard role. This will more than likely be the last year of the Mike Conley era in Minnesota, and down the stretch, I'd really anticipate Mike Conley losing some minutes to Rob Dillingham, maybe even losing some starts to him as well. Jalen Clark, 6'4", with a 6'9" wingspan. He's going to come in and replace the defensive production you got from Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He weighs in at about 210, so a little bit heavier. Played 40 games last year. In those 40 games, he averaged 4 points, almost 2 rebounds, 1 steal in 13 minutes a game, and shot 47% from the field and 43% from 3 on a little over an attempt per game. He was very, very useful whenever the Timberwolves needed him to plug and play whenever they were dealing with injuries. And now when you look at this roster, they've got a group of guys. You could add Berenjay in here as well. 7 guys, 26 or under, that are going to be their core for the next 10 or so years. And essentially they had to choose between Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Nas Reed. They chose Nas for obvious reasons. He's younger. There's not 6'10" guys that can that can move around like he can and dribble, pass, and shoot, walking around everywhere, right? He's on a 5-year, $125 million contract now, so I'd expect him to step it up a little in production. I'd also like to see the Wolves give him some more minutes. You can see right there, only played 27 minutes a game, and he produced in those 27 minutes a game, but I felt like he could have played 30, 31, 32, especially with an aging Gobert, and I would like to see lineups like this with Nas starting instead of Gobert. Now, yes, maybe your defense does lose a little bit of its firepower without Gobert, the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year on the court, but Nas Reed gives you so much more offensively. You also have Julius Randle, who you bring back. Fantastic. I mean, he was like the perfect addition to this Wolves squad. It wasn't looking good early on, but they figured it out. They also have Dante DiVincenzo, who is a great 3-and-D wing, can also help replace some of the production that Nickeil Alexander-Walker gave you. And I really just love this Wolves squad. I think they've got the firepower to make it to the finals this year and potentially win it. With that being said, that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button. Leave me a comment down below and hit that subscribe button if you did enjoy at any point. And with that being said, thanks so much for watching today's video.